So coding round in Google, it
Mm.
is, I hope you know, it's 45 minutes,
Okay.
right? You have gone through the process in case you are aware of. It's typically 45 minutes coding round.
Yes.
So let's assume that, some 5 minutes are intros, etc.,
Okay.
or maybe the closing questions. So let's
Mm.
do a core 40 minutes of technical part. Okay,
Okay.
that would be a good way to go ahead. So what I'll
Then.
do is from the
Mm.
next minute, I will start with
Mm.
a coding problem and we'll go on for 40 minutes, like core
Okay.
technical way, and
Okay.
then we can discuss some feedback how it went at the end. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Let's get started. You have already chosen the language, and
Yes.
here we go. So
Cool.
your question is,
Uh,
um, given two real closed intervals,
mm.
determine whether they overlap or not.
Okay. So close interval. And uh, I think one question is if they just to clarify, what if the start and end is the same? What if um for example I have an interval of 1 3, the other is 3 5. Do we think they overlap or not?
So that's what I mean by the closed intervals part, right?
Okay.
It means that the boundaries are inclusive.
Okay. Cool. And uh um okay, I think I got it. And I think I'm pretty well get what you mean, and I can show you example solution using the whiteboard. Do you prefer that, or can just write here?
I mean, typically we may not have that luxury of whiteboard, so
Okay, so let's
if you
just
can write, it
quickly
would be
show.
better.
Okay, so given two interval, the first thing I will do, I will need to sort them based on the beginning, for example, because after sort it's easier to compare. And then first step is sort, and then I compare the the first interval, first dot right with second dot left. Because it's already sorted, if the first right and second dot left they have an overlap, we know they overlap. Do you think that makes sense?
If first right is greater than what did you say?
Oh, is compare whether uh, first dot right is greater than second dot left, greater or equal.
Okay. Uh, yeah, it makes sense. Yep.
Okay, so let me just call it up. So the function we want is uh,
Can we call
hmm,
left and right maybe a bit differently?
hmm?
Start
Sorry?
or end, like
Yes, start. Maybe this
the
called
left right
end
technique is we can do. Yeah.
start. Do you think this better?
I mean, what do you say? It sounds better, right? In terms of an
Yeah,
interval.
it sounds better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me just code it up. So the function I'm calling here is compare overlap, and we'll need to take two intervals. Uh, maybe let's just make them interval 1, interval 2, and assuming each one is a list of 2 numbers, and we will return whether it's an overlap or not. And the first thing we'll need to do is we'll need to sort the interval. I'm a little bit not. Maybe let me just write my own sort function because I'm a little bit not familiar with how to sort this. Maybe just if interval 1, the starting is smaller or equal than the interval 2, interval 2 dot start first is interval 1 and second is interval 2. Else is first is interval 2, second is interval 1. And then we just return the same thing, whether the first, the end is bigger than second start. And do you think this is clear?
Yeah, it is. It is clear. I mean, do you want to walk through some examples for the written
Yes,
code?
yes, we can do that. For example, let's print an example. Assuming
No. Like you can do a dry run.
just you mean
You need,
just write it down here, right? For
yeah,
example, if we compare an interval, since it's closed interval 0, 2, and 1, 3, and then in this case, since the interval 1, the start is smaller than the interval 2, we will assign first to be this 0, 1, and second to be this 1, 3, and then we will compare the end of the first, and the start of second. And since this is larger than the first part is larger than the second part, we will return true.
okay, yeah, it makes sense. Do you want to take some other edge cases?
Yes. Yeah, I think since we have one case on this, maybe let's take a case where the second interval is smaller. For example, let's make it 3, 5, and this is 0, 1. And in this case, the two are not overlapped also. So in this case, since the start of the second is smaller, we will go to the second in the else statement, and then the first will be 0, 1, second will be 3, 5, and the beginning of the the end of the first is 1, and the beginning of the second is 3, 3. And since 1 is smaller than 3, here we will return false. Do you think we need a statement where the two are the same? There is a exact overlap, like the example I gave before.
If you want, you can go through, but this sounds pretty okay. I'm good with this. It should work.
Okay, cool. Then maybe that we don't
right,
need to go through.
Do you want to talk about maybe time and space complexities?
Yes, I can do that. the time complexity of those two algorithms of this algorithm is O1 because you just assign you sort two numbers and then you do a comparison. And the space complexity here is also in the order of O1 because you're allocate two variables where you and it's a constant complexity.
Sure. That's good. If you don't have
Mhm.
anything else to add, we can move to the next question.
Yes, please let's go to the next question.
All right. So now the question is pretty much same, but
Mm.
there is one change of constraint.
Oh, given n closed interval, determine whether they overlap or not. So to clarify, when we say
Hmm.
overlap, we mean whether they all overlap or some of them overlap. Like for example, if there is uh, two of the interval overlap and the rest of the interval are
Hmm.
or not overlap, do we consider this as a true or false?
Okay, so let me whether they all overlap. So let me give you my understanding all, but it would be it would be this way,
Mm.
every interval must overlap with at least one another interval
Okay,
other than it.
I see. Um, I got it. So it is a pairwise relationship. Um, in this case, I think the basic algorithm we can do is we can for each interval for each interval compare pairwise pairwise with all other intervals. Check, and then the final result will be just whether whether all we can find we can find pairwise match for all intervals. Do you think? And this will give a complexity of O n squared because we are comparing for each interval compare all other intervals.
Yeah, that sounds
Yes,
okay.
yes, and
Do you
then sorry.
do you wanna like code it or maybe talk about complexities?
Uh, yes. Do you think I should code this algorithm, or we can talk about if there is a better one? Or
I mean,
yeah.
what
Mm.
do you think?
Um,
You can take the call.
maybe let me think a little bit whether we can have a better one. I have a I have a feeling like if we sort all the intervals and then when we talk about overlap, we don't have to compare um, each of the pairs. Like if all intervals are assorted, it would make this easier to compare.
Okay.
because for the uh, um, for example, if I have the first interval like 1, 3, to compare whether there are some interval overlap with this interval, I only need to pick the second one, the one with the next one with the smallest start. And then
Okay.
and then uh, if there is overlap, I don't have to worry about uh, if there is overlap. Uh, I can uh, I think I still need to consider the first interval in addition to the second one because suppose we have an interval. The first interval could be like 1, 3, and then is 2. Maybe let me make this slide. This is 2, 8. Then for compare with the third one, we only need to compare this 2, 8 because this one it extends longer, and every interval that overlap with the first one must also overlap with the second one. But if the first one is 2, 8 and the second one is 2, 4, then when we compare with the third one, we need to compare with the first one because we only need to compare with the first one because the first one is the largest. So in this case, I think we can do this in a greedy way. Every time after we compare two interval, uh, we just uh, we just retain the interval that has the largest end because essentially we just need this end information. Do you think that makes sense?
Um, that is making some sense, but can you take a test case where we at least have some 4 or 5 intervals, and then can you just try to walk through?
Yes. Let me just uh, write it. You said I can try to optimize it or test it.
I mean, no, just walk through it with a good
Okay.
test case, just to make
Okay.
sure that this is working fine.
Okay. Yes, I can do that. For example, just give some case. Here I'm assuming things are already sorted, so it's and then we don't have to worry about um, the like sort them again. Um, Maybe here I can call it 11. Okay. In this case, we will just need to compare the first and second interval. First, compare the first two interval, and then we know the overlap by compare the beginning and the end and the beginning and the start. And after this, we only need to take uh, the first one because the first one is have a larger end. And then, oh, and then I think this is okay. We compare the first one with the third one. We can find, okay, the third one uh, is still overlap. And then we can also compare which end is larger. The first one has a larger end, so we still retain the first one. Um, in this case, and then we compare in the third step, we compare the first one with the third one. We can see the overlap, and not the third one, the fourth one, and the first one, this one has a larger end, so we need to retain this one, and then it essentially becomes the case where uh, we have uh, we compare the last two, and we find they still overlap. So the result will be result will be true. Do you think this makes sense?
Yes, yes, this makes sense. Um, do you think this is going to work in every possible case?
Uh, let me think. Let's we can play that a little bit. Essentially, we just need to consider each of the case here. Um, I think it definitely work when the two interval doesn't overlap. Where for example, this one is 10, this one is uh, if if this one is 10 and this one is 11, then we can quickly determine uh, this is not what we want. And the other case we can, so this should work. The other case we need to concern um, is I think we test this unoverlapped case. We test the case where things are is contained. One interval is contained. We test the case where they overlap, but there is no one contain the other. So yeah, I think it work. It work on all cases. There is only three cases: contain, and overlap, and overlap.
Okay, so you're
Or
sure?
can you give me an example where things not work? I I think
Okay, let's think like this.
okay. So let me do a yeah. Let's see whether this case will work. Oh, let me back to one step. Since here we are determining whether each interval have overlap with others, is that going to is this going to work? I think it's going to. Anyway, let me walk through this case. We will first compare this two. This will be uh, one. This is fine, and I'm going to copy this one down. So the next step is we compare 1 to 3. It's the end and the beginning, 8 and 3. This is still larger, so this is 1 and 8. And then the thing return is 9 and 6. And then what we compare is um, is 1 8 and 9 16. And in this case, they don't overlap. But oh, I got what you mean. The high level question is we only need to find if we will return true as long as one of the interval like there is a pairwise match. We don't have to match uh, the entire segment. So then since this doesn't match, we need to. But I think the high level algorithm should still work. We can just add a small fix. In this case, where when these two not overlap, we don't immediately return false. We will just discard the first one and starting to compare the second two, uh, the last part, next part, and then we can find okay they still overlap, so we will still return true. We will return false only when we find an interval that that it it neither match the interval before it nor match the interval after it. Do you think that makes sense?
Uh, just to be clear, with respect
Mm,
to one interval, you
mm,
are comparing with particularly that interval which is the largest ending
mm.
towards the left, right?
Uh,
You
sorry,
got my
I don't quite like if I pick
okay.
the
Okay, let's say there are some intervals I1,
yes,
I2, I3, I4, I5. Okay,
mm, yes,
when and so on. When you are seeing any IN, any
mm,
nth interval
mm,
towards any towards the left, you are comparing with largest ending interval, right?
yes.
That's the fundamental idea. What are you
Towards
doing towards the right?
okay. Um, I got what you mean. We should also compare things towards right, but I think things are symmetric. If this interval, the nth interval, has something match with things towards the right, which means um, uh, if we, we first consider that interval at the right, this will match something towards the left with the nth interval. And then, oh, for example, in this case, uh, when I consider the snag 16, I will not. I will only initially I will only trying to match the thing in on the left, and then when I found no match, I will take this interval and then trying to match the things uh, on the on the right of it, like trying to take this one and consider this
Yes,
one as
yeah,
the
understood,
left.
understood, understood. That point is
Mm,
understood. What you are trying to say is you will check on the right only
mm,
when something in the left wasn't overlapping, right?
yes.
But if something didn't overlap left, what's your action?
If something didn't overlap, I will make the didn't I will make the current right node be the left, and then keep trying to match on the right.
That's what my
My
question is. Towards the right,
mm,
you are understanding my main question. Towards the left, you are comparing with the
mm,
largest ending interval.
mm.
Towards the right, what are you going to compare with? Till what level
Uh,
are you going to compare with?
I think if we do this, we should compare with uh, the smallest starting interval because it's
Exactly.
symmetric.
Good. And which is the smallest starting interval?
That one we should sort it and sort it in the other order and traverse backward.
No, I
Since
mean
we
you
oh
just
it's the
these
sorry
intervals
it's
are
the
already sorted, right?
okay, you are right. The smallest uh should be the just next one.
Exactly. Perfect. Immediate next. That's it. There is nothing other to compare. On the left,
Hmm,
compare with the largest ending one or the immediate next one. Nothing else. That's it. After this,
that's
I
true.
will only get something bigger, and that will anyways never
Hmm,
overlap if it hasn't overlapped with this.
hmm. Yes, I agree.
Yep. Now, this makes sense. I think we are. good at time as well, you can go ahead and start coding.
Okay, let me just code this up. Um, so assuming we have a list of intervals, let me just write here, compare overlap. This will be intervals. Uh, so I need to assume if there's only one interval, let me just remove those corner case. If number of interval is
Oh, okay,
smaller,
okay. You can assume there are more than two intervals. You can avoid this.
okay,
Just assume there are more than two intervals.
more than two, okay. So for then we will need to start first or the left interval. Left interval is interval. Let's do a check, and then for right interval in intervals uh, from one, and then we need to compare whether those two overlap. Uh, Compare. Oh, maybe let's call this two interval. Compare overlap. Uh, Maybe we'll have a flag has overlap. Um, we essentially define this as maybe called true, and if the the left interval and the right interval have overlap, then oh, if anything doesn't have overlap, I think we should make this as uh, or I think we probably don't really need this one. We just in the final condition we return true. And if this one doesn't have overlap, we can return false. And then we also need to compare the writer exactly writer interval. And then the way we compare this is we can have an additional index here. So enumerate this one I, and if I is I plus one is still following in the index intervals, then we compare with the the right the next right interval. Um, the way we compare this is we compare with the current interval and the intervals I plus one. And then we need to determine which is the next left interval. The way we determine the left interval is we compare which has the end, the larger end. If left interval one is has a larger end, we don't need to change it. So we only need to change it when the right interval has a larger end. Okay, I think.
I'm sorry in case you got any background noise.
Sorry, I didn't hear you
I'm sorry in case
clearly.
you got any background.
Yeah. Mm. Well, sorry. Are we out of time?
I'm sorry if you had any background noise.
Do I have any background now? I don't think so.
No,
Uh,
I'm saying
here.
I'm sorry in case I am having any background noise from my side.
Okay, okay. There is no background noise. I can't hear you, but there is some glitches when you speak. It's not noise.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I am able to hear you clearly. In case you have any
Okay.
issues, no worries. You can maybe write and communicate. Yeah. You can go ahead.
Uh, yeah. There is no issue, just some glitches. Okay, and I think this is the code based on our discussion. And by the way, thanks for discussing this with me. Um, the Do you want me to walk you through this code just briefly?
See. Do you think this is uh like
Oh,
okay? Yeah, yeah. Let's
well,
let's let's walk through.
yeah, I haven't sorted the interval. I think I need to sort the intervals. Uh, I think it's just sorted called
Okay.
intervals lambda x x using the left part, using their start, or maybe it's this function. Anyway, I think
Okay. Okay.
you
That
got
that
what
that's
I'm
all
saying.
right. That's okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
me walk you through the code. After we sorted the interval, we initiate the left interval, and then we loop over all the rest of the intervals. The way we loop rest of the interval for each of the next interval, we will compare with the left the most the left interval with the largest ending, and if we found it not overlap, we return false. And then we will also compare the current interval with the interval on its right. And there is some corner case because some interval may not have an interval on the right. We'll compare only if we have that interval. And the final thing we do is we will update this left interval based on the here based on the ending, which one has the largest end. And if all this condition pass, we will return true. If any of the comparison fail, we will return false.
See, this is where the issue is, right? We
Hmm.
don't want to return false just by comparing with the left, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
We
sorry. I
want
should do a. I got what you mean. Yeah, I should is overlap. Is overlap should be the or. Like if both are let's initial this true, and if this one, no, if either the things is good, uh, we only return false if both things are false. How do we do this? Um, I know it's a or operation, and
yeah.
and
So the whole trouble is because of the edge cases. The first and the last interval has to be probably handled separately, and the rest of
yes,
them can be easily done via an OR operation.
yes,
Or otherwise, if you want to maybe make some customized logic of counting somehow that everyone went through the overlap,
yeah,
that can be something. But overall, you get the idea, and I think
yes,
we are almost at the end of time. So I get your idea, and
yes.
I'm sure we are just a bit away. Maybe you want to
Okay.
talk about time and space complexity.
Yes. Let me just put this one here. Anyway, you get my idea. I will stop here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
The
okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. The time complexity is basically you need to sort the array. So that's an O n log n operation, and then you go through all this interval. This is just a linear. So the high level complexity is all n log n, and the space complexity is majorly when you sort this array, you will generate a new list. So that's going to be O n. And by the way, I still think my previous algorithm is correct, but I agree I'm not able to communicate that to explain that very clear to you. I think you can compare only to the left, and but but you will need additional logic when you if they don't match, you need to change the left.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree, but you may have to do something more to make sure that eventually it did get considered.
Yes.
But that's all right. We can just conclude. Like, what's your final time and space complexity?
The final time complexity is, let me write this down. Time complexity is O n log n, space is O n.
Um,
Because you need to sort the intervals.
yeah, I think space should not be ON, right? You are not using any extra space, right?
Uh, I don't know whether when you sort this generate a new interval, uh, it will
Okay. That's all right. That's
return
all
this.
right. Yeah, got it. Got it. All right. We are okay with the time now, so let's talk. Let's stop the technical discussion part, and we can share some feedback.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. So I'll write maybe at the top. Let me know if you're able
Mm,
to see.
mm.
Um. So yeah, before I say anything, what do you want to say? How do you think? How are the questions? How did you
Uh,
do?
Yeah, I think the first question I worked it out. The second question, I get the high level thing, but I when I walk through example, I miss one example where you could have two groups of interval, and those two groups itself they don't
Yeah.
overlap. And
Okay.
when
Yep.
I walk through the code, probably I didn't get this all logic right. This is my problem.
Yeah. So, how did you find the questions, the quality of questions?
Uh, how did I find which question? The quality?
Yeah, I mean, quality or the difficulty of questions.
I think uh it's medium seem to me. Like I feel I can. This is something I need to think a little bit, but I it's something not something is impossible for me.
Yeah. Yep, makes sense. So, if I be honest with respect to Google,
Mm,
questions are not hard the way you
mm,
see lead code hard questions.
mm.
They are they will lie in the difficulty region mostly of medium, but they'll
Okay.
be a bit tricky. Like you have to think thoroughly in terms of the test
Mm,
cases, edge cases.
okay.
That's what they'll test you more upon. In lead code, the hard are just hard because of the data structure being utilized,
Mm,
but it's not necessarily
okay.
that, and that's the nature of Google problems. That the Google problems which they will present, you may not likely get them on the platform of lead code. For example, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure you might have never seen this kind of problem on lead code.
No.
So that's how the nature of Google problems are. So before
Mm,
giving any feedback, I'll just give you
mm,
general Google tips. Uh,
mm.
so yeah. So first is a very general tip,
Okay.
because you just have 45 minutes, keep everything else very small.
Mm,
Have as much time as possible for your problems, okay?
mm.
So if the interview starts with a easy problem, for example, in today's case, the first problem is a very easy problem.
Right.
understand that this probleming is being presented for setting up the scene so that some
Mm.
more relatively difficult problem can be presented.
Right.
Don't waste a lot of time here. Just wrap up as quickly as possible, maybe in less than 10 minutes, so that you have
Yeah.
more time for the later one. Code quality will matter depending upon your level. The more higher the level you are
Mm.
applying for, the quality of the code will also matter. That's why I was talking about things like left, right, or start, and you have to make
Okay.
things more and more production ready. Also, this is one very important thing I tell with respect to Google interviews. Typically, interviewer may not come with elaborate problem statements or test cases the way lead code gives you. They
Mm.
expect the candidate to dig these things. you know
Okay.
uh, uh,
Yeah.
you lead this part of communication, how to bring
Mm.
about the problem, how to clarify, how to write down the right test cases, right amount of test cases. For example, in the second case, you did think
Mm.
well, but because you didn't think through test cases of all varieties, you couldn't get to
Mm.
the clarity of the algorithm. Probably, if you would have got the algorithm right in the first go, you could have easily write the
Mm.
code also in properly in the first go.
Right. That's very important. I agree.
So yeah, so you have to find a balance between how you are communicating everything clearly, yet not consuming time saying very trivial stuff.
Mm.
And yeah, the general important topics I have been observing in the recent times are in the domain of graphs and their algorithms, trees, binary search. So that's just for generality. Let's just
Yeah.
quickly walk through uh,
By the way, what are the
what went right.
algorithm in graph? Like depth first search, breadth first search. What are
Yeah, yeah,
others?
all
Um,
regular ones:
uh,
DFS, TFS, short paths, minimum
mm.
spanning trees, uh,
Okay.
or let's say those kind of data structures, uh, union, find, etc. Disjoint sets.
Okay. Thank you. Mm.
Yeah, I think you clarified the problems very well,
Mm.
or even what it means for n intervals to overlap. I have always seen candidates not really understanding what n overlap would mean, and they
Mm.
conclude with something else, code something else, and later clarify this. So that part was very good. Uh,
Yeah. Thank you.
this part I really liked was that there were no gaps of silence. You always thought out very loud. I was always uh, clear, like in what direction you are headed. So that was pretty good, very good, and continue on that. Uh,
Thank you.
Overall, code quality is excellent. Maybe uh, you can read more about Python production readability
Okay.
uh, for fine tuning, but otherwise it's pretty good. And
Okay.
speed of coding is excellent. So that's really your strength. It's good. In general, I would say your uh, thinking ability and problem solving was also very good. Like you
Mm.
could more or less come up with the answer completely on yourself. It's just that because you didn't take the right test case yourself, you just
Mm.
couldn't complete your algorithm in the first case. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So let me share some thoughts from my side. What could have been better?
Okay.
So now this one is a trivial one that
Mm.
uh, it's good to suggest complexities of written code oneself without interviewer
Oh.
prompting for it. So
Okay.
there is one general thing that I would say. In general, an interview is being guided more by the interviewee
Mm.
than the interviewer. Do you get this point?
No.
Like don't uh, like interviewer will present you with a problem.
Yes.
You should be clear what all you want to do. Like you should be clear that okay, I should think for an approach, I should create test cases, uh, I should write the code now, I should suggest the problem in case something optimal is possible. You are leading
Mm.
it. uh,
Okay.
you are leading it, and you are taking constant nod, constant yes, you know,
Mm.
from the interviewer before proceeding. That's how you should, in general, carry out an interview. Like,
I see. So
uh,
if I rephrase what you said is I should uh, like
mhm,
suggest what to do next, and I should listen. Uh,
yes.
but I should listen
And
yes
hence, you should
from
have
the
a very
interview.
clear list of general actions always ready.
Okay.
Whenever a problem
Cool.
is given, first clarify, then
Mm.
then write necessary test cases, then suggest
Mm.
your approach, then write the
Mm.
code, and then suggest the complexities. Some set of actions you should have clearly with you,
Okay.
and keep going
Okay.
ahead as the interviewer is saying yes to them, unless he
Okay.
wants something else, of course.
Mm.
Okay, so now what I will say is the main thing that I saw you should be really working upon is
Mm.
writing good test cases.
Right.
Uh, make sure you write test cases which include edge cases uh, thoroughly enough
Mm.
before thinking of possible approaches. So let's say for the first problem, three kind of test cases are sufficient. Uh,
Mm.
where the first interval is smaller, second is bigger, and the overlapping, the exactly same case. In the
Yeah.
second problem also, three kind of test cases would have been sufficient. But I think you didn't even write one. When I suggested, maybe you can take a test case and see things are working or not, that's when you wrote one, and you
Mm.
concluded that it's correct just by that one.
Mm. Right. I think that's something I need to
Uh,
improve. I agree.
yeah, make sure that's where the lead code platform may not help. Of course, there can
Mm.
be, it totally depends on your luck also. In case the interviewer itself has come with good enough test cases, then it's good. Otherwise, sometimes
Yeah.
interviewer may come with some test cases and you may have to write more.
Mm.
So there are all cases possible. Make sure you have explored all variety possible before even thinking of the approach. Otherwise,
Okay.
approaches remain partial.
Okay.
It
I
will
agree.
help to build an approach which is
Mm.
thorough and complete,
Okay.
and will also aid in writing code clearly.
Okay. So
Uh,
I yeah when I watch people I watch some video when people interview. I think they may not write
mhm.
the full test case very formally, but they will write this in just text. Do you think that's okay, or do you think it's better just
Yeah,
write?
yeah, yeah. That works. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That works as well. Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Uh, Also, then I mean, how to say? If you have only considered everything, interviewer
Mm.
uh, need not give any corrections.
Okay.
See, in this case, what happened? I
Mm.
was again and again asking, "Are you sure? Is it correct? Are you sure? Is it correct?" And then you had to ask me, "Can you tell me a test case where it is not working?" And then I told, "See, this is how it's not working." This kind of case, if it happens, basically,
Mm.
uh, any kind of hints in a Google interview brings
Mm.
down your leveling. Basically, there is risk
Oh,
that they
okay.
may down level you.
Right. Right. I agree.
And same, always try to dry run the code yourself
Mm.
without interviewer asking for it,
Mm.
to make sure you haven't made any logical mistakes in the writing of the code. Uh,
Okay.
interviewer should not be in general pointing out any mistakes in the code. Does that make sense?
Yes, I got what you mean. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this was good. This is all the feedback that I have. In my opinion, you are doing really good in terms of your skills, in terms of your problem solving. If you also work a bit more on how to approach an interview problem,
Mm.
you will be like complete and will be able to crack anything. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. And do you think
All
we
right.
can
I
add
wish you all the best.
LinkedIn after we finish this interview?
Yeah, for
Like I
sure.
can add.
Yeah. It
Okay.
gives an option
Thank
in the
you so much.
platform, right, to connect.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right. I wish you all the best. We are good with the time also. Have a good day. Bye.
And you too. Bye. Have a good one.